Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So last week we had an update and I wasn't really there to cover it. I was away with my girlfriend on a holiday. So let's cover everything in this video if you didn't already get the news. Now we can see the patch notes as of last week, September the 17th, and there were a few fixes and adjustments, but unfortunately there were actually some bugs introduced with this update, and we'll cover that later on in the video. So first of all, we can look here that the Battle Pass Volcanic Visions will be having the buyout fixed. So what this means is basically when you gain progress on the Battle Pass, you can then go and say buy out the Battle Pass if you haven't finished it yet. That allowed you to gain basically 4,000 XP, and the price of that would be discounted based on how much progress you already made. So if you nearly finished the Battle Pass, you could buy the buyout for just a few Zen, or even free at some point I think, and still get 4,000 XP, which would immediately finish the Battle Pass, but then also overflow into bonus progress, allowing you to basically obtain 3 more of these packs for free, nearly 4 of them. So that was a little bit of an exploit, and it will work with the current Battle Pass on the first part if you haven't already finished it, but no longer for the next 2 parts and future Battle Passes. Additionally, they've gone and sped up the rate at which you can gain XP for the final part, which will be coming out, as we can see the date here, October the 15th. This will allow you to complete it much sooner, as they want to go and reduce the availability time for that Battle Pass down to just 3 weeks. And I assume they're going to do this because they want to push out the next module, which will come with the next Battle Pass, before this would normally end. Normally, the Battle Pass would have ended, I believe, near the end of November, but now they're pushing that end to the beginning of November. So you'll only have 3 weeks with this part. Be aware of that and just make sure you're getting your progress. You can get those free rewards, nice free bag of holding, 10 scrolls, legendary insignia, and 4 keys. And of course, if you have the premium pass, be sure to get that Como you paid for. But that means, yeah, it's pretty good. We'll be getting most likely module 30 at the beginning of November then, around November the 12th probably, as we can see here, when this Battle Pass ends. Because we did have some weird overlap with this current Battle Pass and the last module. They probably don't want to do that again, as it was a bit confusing. We ended up with having 2 Battle Passes going on at once. But it's also good news with regards to them pushing out new content, and that's not being delayed due to, say, a developer studio change, potentially going over to Deca Games, which has been in transition over the past year, at least what was now announced last year. But let's move on with this. They've gone and fixed the Hotnow Rune board so that you can properly have that 4th Insignia with the preferred bonus of 20% extra item level, and we can see that is indeed the case. You can now use Executioner's Covenant and get the bonus item level off that Enlightened Insignia, which will be a bonus 100 item level while at Mythic. But moving on, we can see with combat and powers, they just updated these overloaded enchantments to properly function as described. There's not a lot of content to actually use those, potentially in the trial Svargborg to use the Giant Slayer. Then with the user interface, they just updated Diana to properly appear in your collections, to give you some points. The Light as Araxis campaign will now properly have the campaign buyout button, and the campaign buyout is available on the Zen market if you weren't aware. And then in the Defense of the Moondancer trial, the Lieutenant Doctor, I believe, was updated to no longer massively heal all of the allies it had around it. This was probably very likely a bug as a result of the updates they made to the first boss in the latest dungeon. However, there are reports that this hasn't actually been fixed. If you are running that trial, be sure to just focus the Doctor fully before trying to beat up anything. Then we do go to the Lair of the Mad Dragon dungeon, again the latest release with this module, And with the second boss, they've gone and updated his target collision so that it'll be a bit more easier to target those warlock and summoner adds. They've also gone and reduced the number of times he will summon adds in normal advanced difficulties. Should be able to get past that boss then a bit easier, and also fixed where the warlocks could briefly double stack their buffs. They would basically give 40% damage resistance per stack, and this could sometimes stack up like 5, 6, 7 times briefly, causing your big hits to basically do no damage whatsoever, and could be very problematic with the ending of this boss. So hopefully that won't occur anymore. And then just a few minor bug fixes and improvements, resolving an issue when upgrading mounts that wasn't showing which power was actually upgraded, swapping powers should no longer override cooldowns of belt items, and they fixed, I believe, an achievement with the Mount Hunt No Scrying orbs, and the Ember Glazed pants should now display the correct asset. However, there is still some issues with that. It was reported that the Hote Now Scrying achievement is listed under Legacy rather than Exploration, as we can see right here, most likely because, yeah, Hote Now was a Legacy area. They just didn't move it. But there's also a pretty big issue with regards to the whole swapping powers thing. You may have noticed that all your powers and features were reset. Everything has been slotted now, all of the left ones. So these at-wills, these encounters, these dailies, these features. That can be very annoying when you play a lot of characters. The devs aren't fully aware why this is the case. We can switch to another character and their power setup is also the same. All have been reset to the left there, except these features. We have these two here instead. But yeah, that was definitely an annoying thing. The devs do apologize for this unexpected reset, and it was not their plans, and they were reviewing why this may have occurred. So yeah, it must have just been a bug as a result of trying to fix this bug here. Now, even worse than that was the fact that when you go and use some consumables, say some watermelon here, Sunlord's Gift Elixir, we have those long duration buffs here, and we would switch loadout. We can see we check our buffs and they're cleared, all gone. This is pretty horrible right now, particularly when you're jumping between multi-target, single target damage loadouts in like a dungeon, having all of those buffs just reset. That can get quite costly. So just be aware of that and only buff up when you absolutely have to. And otherwise, you will be paying an extra fee by having to use a whole lot more of them because of them getting reset every time you switch loadout. You can, of course, get your character set up so you prioritize single target. That's generally where it's most important, and just switch out some powers manually and some things when you want to go to multi-target. But the devs did respond. They're tracking this issue internally. The change to their loadout system has altered which effects can persist through a loadout change. As a result of this, consumable effects are being purged when they should not be. They are working on a fix, but it is unlikely they can deploy a change this week to address the issue. Due to the nature of the issue, it is not a small update. I personally hope they'll give some compensation, but otherwise, again, just be aware of that happening and don't waste your expensive buffs. Other than that, we did get some dev response with regards to some bosses not showing their animations. They do say that they've identified the issue and they believe that the major source of this animation playback issue is a technical flaw tied to certain powers known to include Drizzt Companion, Warlock's Hellfire Ring, Greenscale Bowman's power, and a few others like Cleric Flamestrike. So they will be expecting to have a solution for this with the next module. So you could just avoid using those certain powers and abilities for now if you want to avoid that. I know as a tank, I've personally gotten used to it. Just learned the timing of the boss's attacks and learned to expect when you're actually going to take the big hits. And then if he doesn't animate, that's not such a big surprise for you. Otherwise, there has been reports that you can't currently upgrade strongholds, but only if you're, say, the Helm Guild in an alliance. So just be aware of that if you run into that issue. It is not just you. But overall, that is the patch notes from last week with some updates with regards to some important bugs to be aware of. Once again, thank you for watching. A special thank you to all these channel members for your extra support. If I presented this well, consider leaving the video a like. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.